I do want to hit one last topic, and still we're kind of all in coronavirus today, but I want to hit one more topic. Number one, there was a great piece out, and this is, I want to talk about how, America is fighting the virus and the left in America is fighting Trump. But there's a great piece out with lots of data in it, and you can find it on my website, americacanwetalk.org. On the homepage, under shows, drop down, list of links, you can find this article. It's basically an article by actual doctors, not left-wing scaremongers, actual doctors, that is entitled, in fact, the title of it is, the risk of death, U.S. coronavirus fatality rate is overestimated. Again, there's a range of thinking from pure panic, everyone stays in their hovel from now till Election Day. Wouldn't the left love that? And on the right, where we are on the notion of, let's be reasonable, understand, directly target the threat, deal with the threat, as we are doing, as President Trump is trying to do. And then there's the kind of the silly cavalier, ignore this, and that's not the right answer either. But I want to hit how, when I say the left fights Trump, I'm going to give you some examples of what I mean. So President Trump gave his press conference his statement from the Oval Office last night related to the coronavirus situation. And that's when he announced he's going to suspend travel between America and Europe because, as you well know, I'm assuming you know, Europe is having a huge problem with coronavirus. It is still true, by the way, still true. Over 90% of the deaths in the world to date from coronavirus are in China. I don't wish ill on anyone, but we're talking about a whole different kind of situation, a whole different government than you have in America. But so after President Trump gave his statements, and which many in the nation watched, you had people on the media giving their reactions. So I want to start with Jim Acosta. Jim Acosta was interviewed, and his remarks and what he had to say about what President Trump said in describing the coronavirus situation.
The president referred to the coronavirus as a, quote, foreign virus. That I think was interesting because, as I was talking to sources earlier this evening, one of the points that the president wanted to make tonight, wanted to get across to Americans, is that this virus did not start here, but that they're dealing with it. Now, why the president would go as far as to describe it as a foreign virus, that is something we'll also be asking questions about. But it should be pointed out that Stephen Miller, who is an immigration hardliner who advises the president, is one of his top domestic policy advisors and speechwriters, right, was a driving force in writing this speech. And I think it's going to it's going to come across to a lot of Americans as smacking of xenophobia, to use that kind of term in this speech, Chris.
Okay. I want to just say, if you cannot tell from what I just played, that is pure evil on the part of Jim Acosta. And this is what I say. Trump is trying to solve the problem. America wants the problem solved. Doctors are getting on board. Research institutions are getting on board. County health facilities, everybody's trying to fight coronavirus. The left is trying to fight Trump. Acosta making an inane, idiotic remark that the president calling this a foreign virus was somehow a signal of xenophobia. Anytime you present any health claim, any issue, any disease, any problem you have to a doctor, they want to diagnose it, of course. What is the problem? And number two, the question is, where did it come from? What is the source? In every other medical arena, doctors are looking at, how did you develop this problem? Where did it come from? If it's a contagion, especially, where did it come from? And the idea that the entire world knows that this began in the province of Wuhan in China, and that there are all sorts of suspicions about its source. And when President Trump uses the expression, this is a foreign virus, for Jim Acosta to call that xenophobic. He's doing his whole Trump is a racist argument. Jim Acosta is, and CNN is, and the American left is doing, is just despicable. Of course it matters where it came from. It matters to know where it came from in order to know how to control it. If it came from Canada, we'd be shutting the border with Canada. We would be banning travel with Canada. It didn't. It came from China. And it's foreign, because China is not America. So it came from China, and that's why we had our travel restriction there. It spread to Europe before they got on top of it. We have a travel restriction there. But this idea, understand, I'm not joking when I say the left is not interested in solving the problem. They're interested in any political points to attack President Trump. Next thing we have is we have a virus expert who joined the discussion, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She weighed in with maybe even a more idiotic comment than Jim Acosta. here she is, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, an actual member of Congress, shockingly.
Honestly, it sounds almost so silly to say, but there's a lot of restaurants that are feeling the pain of racism, where people are literally not patroning Chinese restaurants. They're not patroning Asian restaurants because of just straight up racism around the coronavirus. So,
okay, number one, patroning is not a word. This is not the main problem I have with what she had to say. Patroning is not a word. Patronizing is the word. Patroning is a word only in AOC's head. But number two, and far more important, the idea that she is drawing a correlation between alleged American behavior choosing not to go to Chinese restaurants, which I don't even know if there's any data to back that up, but it doesn't matter if there is or there isn't. Calling the decision people might be making about Chinese restaurants concerned about food that may have a source in China, given that this is a foreign virus that came from China, okay, maybe there are some people kind of concerned. AOC, Jim Acosta, and we'll get to Ilhan Omar next. But these people on the left can never, ever resist the temptation to find some way to tie the term racism to something going on involving President Trump, any issue there can be, anything the GOP ever comes out in a position for any subject, any bill, AOC finds some way to call it racist. I mean, and I'll tell you something else about her, which on AOC while we're on her, I meant to. You know, back when we had the Kavanaugh hearings, and now Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh was going through the nomination process, the confirmation process in the Senate, and that woman made up a story about him in high school, the whole, story. She came and talked about some incident that she claimed happened in high school, and the overwhelming America figured out she made it up, and you could tell from many different facets of the story that her name was Christine Blasey Ford. She's a doctor, but she had that voice like a 5-year-old. Christine Blasey Ford, but I just don't really, I hardly even know how to tie my shoes. I'm just so, and she used that voice. Psychologists commented afterwards, she was using that extremely childish, soft baby talk voice in order to make it harder for people to cross-examine her, to question her. She's signaling, I'm so vulnerable, I'm so childish, I'm so innocent, you can't even ask me questions. AOC does the same thing. That voice she uses, that just, and I won't try to imitate her, but the voice she uses has that same quality of just, I hardly should be saying this, but it's just, and she uses that voice in order to signal the notion that she is vulnerable, she's a little bit scared, and so I should hardly be saying this, is to make people not attack her, is to make people not respond, make people feel like they shouldn't probably contradict her. It's ridiculous, and her allegation is ridiculous. And yeah, America is entitled to be concerned about anything coming from China in the middle of this coronavirus crisis. Of course, people are concerned about that. Another great thing Trump did, I meant to mention, was he's starting the process of saying we've got to bring back manufactured medications to America. We can't have our population, our citizenry, dependent on China for whatever it is, well over 80% of all our medications, it's over 90% of antibiotics we have in America come from China. This is not smart, and this is actually one little silver lining this coronavirus is America waking up to that fact and saying, you know what, let's bring back pharmaceutical manufacturing to America. One last attack on Trump from the left, and this is just a tweet by Ilhan Omar. She put a tweet up right after, same thing, she was commenting on President Trump's statement during the State of the Union, or excuse me, during his remarks last night, and then Kevin McCarthy tweeted out, everything you need to know about the Chinese coronavirus can be found on one regularly updated website, coronavirus.gov. So he's putting out a helpful tweet to explain to America, you want to know more about the virus, here's where to go. And Ilhan Omar tweets, viruses don't have nationalities. This is racist. No, Ilhan Omar, you complete lunatic. The coronavirus that's causing havoc in the world came from China. You therefore are allowed to call it the Chinese coronavirus. This is not racist. And again, I will close out this segment and turn to my Why It Matters segment by saying this. It's extremely important to keep in mind. Everything you will read about the coronavirus, if you read it on any left-wing news source, any left-wing news source. There will be some effort to point a finger of blame at President Trump, at the CDC, at his administration, at the members of his commission who are handling this crisis, because everything about the left is about gaining and controlling and holding on to power. So therefore, everything they do about this has the mission of destroying President Trump, of diminishing his importance or his legitimacy, of making the American people turn against him. What you see out of a member of Congress, AOC, and the idiocy of Ilhan Omar criticizing the use of the term this Chinese virus, this Chinese coronavirus, when that's exactly what it is. These people are telling you they do not have the mental maturity, the cultural maturity, the political maturity to be serving in our Congress.